God of War keeps getting bigger and better than ever before. God of War Ragnarok earlier this week dropped its free Valhalla DLC to much acclaim, and God of War writer claims God of War Ragnarok doesn't mark the end of the series' story. We have a lot to get into, covering the Valhalla DLC and what it includes, before concluding the video with some spoilers about future speculation as to where the God of War story will take us next. Just know that God of War isn't going away anytime soon, and that Santa Monica Studios is here to reassure us that this insanely popular franchise will continue to revel among the gods well into the future. If you are a fan of God of War, and especially a fan of both the Norse and Greek sagas, this DLC, while not the one we thought we were going to get, is worth a playthrough and then some. There's no reason why Sony would just scrap the series after God of War Ragnarok managed to sell a whopping 15 million units in its first year, right? This sales milestone already makes it one of the best-selling PlayStation exclusive titles released for both the PS4 and PS5, and it is rapidly catching up to God of War 2018 sales, which now sit at over 23 million units sold. Back in August of 2021, God of War 2018 had sold 19.5 million units, at which point the game had been available for over 3 years, and in early 2021 saw it release on the PC. Considering God of War Ragnarok has only been made available for just over a year and the game is sitting at over 15 million units, this game definitely seems to have a lot more steam in its sales, especially when considering the brand new free Valhalla DLC that just came out and with a PC release coming later. Speaking of a PC release, while we still don't yet have a specific release date or time frame to expect the PC version of God of War Ragnarok, it will likely launch in the years 2024 through 2026, as it took God of War 2018 almost 4 years to release on PC. With other Sony first-party games taking anywhere from 1 to 2 years to release on PC, like Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart and Returnal, for example, it could be likely to expect God of War Ragnarok to launch either late in 2024 or shortly after. Regardless, there is absolutely no way Sony is just going to call it quits here after the massive success of both the Norse Saga God of War games. In fact, just this past summer, new job postings at Santa Monica Studios for senior combat designers who had an extensive understanding of God of War were made available. Now, you might tell me it was for this DLC, and perhaps some of these jobs were for that, but considering the recency these job postings were made available to when the Valhalla DLC dropped, I am confident these combat designer positions are likely for the next major God of War game coming down the line. We'll get into all that, but for those who haven't yet tried out the Valhalla DLC, you're in for one heck of a treat. Do you remember the leaks from numerous insiders the last few months regarding God of War Ragnarok DLC? Well, that DLC just arrived earlier this week in the Valhalla DLC for God of War Ragnarok. The leaks were 100% correct in stating that the DLC would be announced in early December, and this announcement from the Game Awards is exactly what we got, as the rumored Atreus DLC instead turned out to be a roguelite God of War expansion exploring Kratos' past in combat-heavy DLC. Looks like we'll have to wait even longer until we get a potential Atreus spin-off title and the next God of War game. God of War Ragnarok Valhalla is the name of this new adventure, and is completely free for both the PS4 and PS5 owners of God of War Ragnarok. So kudos to the good folks at Santa Monica Studio for not only releasing an incredibly well-made game, but for also including completely free DLC that is a lot more incredible than what the trailer depicts. The update occupies around 8 GB of hard disk space, and for all you trophy hunters out there, the game adds 12 trophies in a separate Valhalla set for God of War Ragnarok, meaning these trophies will not be required in order to platinum the game. The DLC takes place after the events of God of War Ragnarok and features a brand new location to the series, being of course Valhalla, of which is central to the narrative of the DLC. Perhaps the biggest thing that might either make you excited or put you off by this DLC is the structure of the mode itself, resembling elements of a roguelite game where you have a random set of enemies thrown at you, along with randomized items and levels in a non-linear progression with your progress resetting on death. This being a roguelite mode features that familiar cycle of dying while maintaining certain upgrades and perks that will allow future playthroughs to progressively get easier the further you progress. And with God of War Ragnarok's Valhalla mode, you are free to customize much of your experience more than most other games or modes in the genre. Players are allowed to customize everything from the difficulty setting to which perks and stat bonuses you carry over to each subsequent run, but there's just so much more to it than that. Valhalla will run players anywhere from 4 to 5 hours on average to complete the mode, but there's just so much more to do after completing the mode if you want to see everything. What makes this DLC so fantastic is that the story included in the Valhalla DLC provides an even greater sense of closure for the Norse saga, and even the Greek saga, because while not going into spoiler territory yet, Kratos comes face to face with some of his greatest demons from his days as a godslayer in ancient Greece. Whether that be iconic enemies from his past, and even some interactions with the gods themselves, God of War Ragnarok Valhalla is an absolute must-play and is so much better than I thought a miniature God of War roguelite would be. This being free and containing new gear, costumes, and more that can be carried over to the base game and New Game Plus modes makes Valhalla one of the most incredible free DLCs in all of gaming, and for this being released in 2023 with all the monetization going on is truly special. Special praise for the incredible voice work, as expected, and also the incredible soundtrack, which expertly fuses the familiar melodies of the epic Greek saga games into the Norse setting, creating, in my opinion, the pinnacle of what we've seen from Santa Monica Studio. Better yet, Bear McCreary, the composer for the Norse God of War games, confirmed that there will indeed be a soundtrack album coming soon that covers the new tunes in God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. Seriously, go out and play the DLC already. It's that good. God of War Ragnarok was always slated to be the end of the Norse saga, and both Cory Barlog and Eric Williams, the directors of God of War 2018 and Ragnarok respectively, have reiterated that numerous times throughout the years. While the Valhalla DLC is, of course, not an entirely new game, this DLC surprisingly came jam-packed with meaningful story content that further examined Kratos' past in ancient Greece and the horrors he still contends with. Be warned. We're now in the spoiler territory of this video, so definitely play the DLC for yourself before watching this section of the video. But for those itching for more God of War, it looks like we have more to experience with the Ghost of Sparta going forward. Over on Twitter, Orion Walker, a senior writer at Santa Monica Studio, puts out an incredibly vague tweet, musing, "You really think the credits are the end of the story? Come on now." As such, this vague tweet has had many speculate as to whether this means that there's more to see after the credits upon beating the Valhalla DLC, or whether this pertains to an unannounced God of War game coming out in the future. The answer to both these is simply yes. After completing the Valhalla DLC when the credits roll, we see Kratos align with Freya to continue their roles as the protectors of peace in the Norse realms, with more lore that is unlocked upon returning to Valhalla with more details pertaining to the boat captain, Kratos' daughter Calliope with finding her flute, more boss fights, etc. As to another God of War game, this tweet also likely suggests that as well, as even though this Valhalla DLC wraps up Kratos as the protector of the realms for now and having accepted his haunting past, he now has a new role to uphold, a role of establishing and maintaining peace. But we know Kratos attracts anything but peace, which will undoubtedly set up the next God of War saga that is to come years down the line. We saw Tyr serve an exceptionally important role in the Valhalla DLC, serving as a guide or mentor of sorts to help Kratos come to terms with the side of him he'd rather have kept buried in the past, sparring with the Ghost of Sparta with various weapons from mythologies spanning ancient Egypt to ancient Japan in an attempt to guide Kratos' emotions. The end result is a Kratos that has come to terms with his past, now appropriately nicknamed the God of Hope, as per the trophy you get for completing the DLC, of which is likely to be the driver for Kratos to uphold the peace for not just the Norse realms, but whichever realms he gets dragged into in the future. There's just too much evidence here to refute a future God of War game, from the recent hirings over at Santa Monica Studio to the game sales, cryptic tweets and references from the game developers, and so on. Just make sure to put on some of your finest patient pants for this one, because it's going to be a long while until the next major God of War game hits store shelves. In the meantime, play the heck out of the Valhalla DLC, because there is so much more in there than meets the eye, and be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more God of War content, as very shortly I will put up a video covering all the references we've gotten that points at a likely setting for the next God of War game. Watch this video for more details pertaining to the job postings at Santa Monica Studios, and thank you for your continued support. I'll see you real soon in the next one.